This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
The economy is shrinking, inflation just won't go away, trade war talks, but somehow the stock market is up? What should we make of all this? Well, Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group, is here to help us make sense of things and also show us some opportunities we might not want to miss. I'm Alex Dingman, host of Financial Insanity. Thank you so much for joining us today. Scotty, it is great to see you, my friend. How are you doing?
You too, buddy. I'm so glad to see you. Had a great Mama's Day. It was unbelievable. It's an unbelievable day.
Hell yeah.
What a great day is today.
Absolutely. We appreciate all those mamas out there, and thank you so much. And today we are going to be talking about the economy. Later on, we're going to be clearing up some common myths that the McLean Advisory Group has identified, and we're also discussing estate and legacy planning. So a lot on the show today. But Scott, so many mixed signals about the health of our economy, a lot of information out there. But how do you help pre-retirees create that reliable income stream that's designed to last and, can be something that can be used no matter what is going on with the economy?
I think of the economy like upside down cake. The economy is sweet on the top, but kind of messy underneath. And you look at what's going on in the market today, and of course, it's like that one cousin who shows up to every family party with a new car, but you really don't know what he's up to.
Yeah.
You don't know if he's up to eyeballs in debt or what's going on, but he looks or she looks really fancy. So climbing out of this could be amazing. So again, we see a lot of issues. Yeah, let's talk about history real quick.
Sure.
I think about leading up to 2008 crash, the S&P, Standard & Poor's, gained 15%. Of course, the market was screaming. No one wanted the fear of missing out. They were jumping in. And of course, people that are retirees were changing their game plan because they actually jumped in. This is a problem we're going to talk about today. But because the market doesn't mean you're safe, it means at that time it was safe. So I think so many times people make that big challenge. And the myth is, am I doing okay? What's going on? And so how does McLean Advisory look at this? This is what we do at our firm. And you look at a lot of different areas, whether it's the inflation, taxes, interest rates we see coming up. So security, we're going to talk about later on, I think. And we think about all the different areas. And so people might be smiling because the market just jumped like the jumping beans, or maybe the market dove down and they're hiding under their bed. I'm not sure. If you're out there right now and you have confusion because the market has been really crazy watching the tariffs and stuff, 609-488-4646 is a great number that you're able to contact us and say, Scotty, what do you think? Because if you don't have a plan, maybe you forgot what your wishes and your dreams were, and then we want to bring you back to center.
Yeah, absolutely. 609-488-4646, the number for Scott and the team at McLean Advisory Group right here in Waretown. If you have questions, again, 609-488-4646. And we'd like to talk about the positives here on the Scott. There are some opportunities in a time like this. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, there are some things that you can do to take advantage of the current climate.
I do like the current climate. You go back and you look at the lost decade from 2000 to 2010. We call that lost decade because the market went nowhere. And frankly, if you had the S&P, if you had the NASDAQ, the tech stocks, it went from 1999 to 2014, 15. You went nowhere. So again, how we invest it? Well, understand how to use reverse dollar cost averaging. If you're out there right now and you're saying, I want to pull income out, there's some great opportunities now. The interest rates are skyrocketing. I've seen some fixed accounts out there at 5.5% guaranteed up to 3 to 5 years. I've seen some really, as interest rates are high, you see bond rates are high right now before they start to or cut interest rates, there's some great opportunities. Dividend paying stocks and prefers. Well, they're trading at a discount. And that could be a wonderful deal because if par is 25 and you buy them at 20, you've got a huge discount. And in addition to that, what a great way to have income coming in via dividends. And of course, if you have preferred shares, oh my gosh, it could be great for your portfolio. Next best thing is we think about the economy and how to take advantage of this roller coaster is Roth IRAs. Should we do a Roth conversion by changing, if the market's down, should we sell out, roll it over to a Roth account, pay the tax, and now all that money, when the market turns back around, it's like owning beachfront property without paying taxes. It could be a wonderful opportunity. So there are some really cool things out there that people could pay attention to. And if they want to give our studios a shout out and get some other ideas, there are some really unique tools out there now that could really be favorable to the investors out there who can maybe handle this.
Yeah. And Scott and his team's number, if you have questions, 609-488-4646. Just add a .com for the website. And Scott, what we don't want people doing is acting out of fear. Maybe they see something going on and it can, cause a lot of emotions and people can react in ways that maybe in the long term hurts them. Talk a little bit about how working with you can help people, settle their nerves and set them on a good path.
Well, I'm not a physician, Alex. I'm sorry. I can't give prescriptions over the phone for medication, but I can do one thing. I can give you some guidance. What I've found so many different times is as you diversify portfolio, we've heard this 100 times, like this is nothing new. Come on.
Right.
But the problem is it's something old, but people don't take advantage of in these times. So again, building a resilient, diversified strategy could be very wonderful, laddering different types of investments, dividend-paying stocks. Maybe there's some annuities that are guaranteed fixed ones that are very strong. The sweet spot, I really think we're looking at is interest rates start to go down. This could be a wonderful, if you need more income, a wonderful tool for some of you right now because the emotional roller coaster is real. It did drop, 50% 2000 down to 50% 2009 from 2007's peak. But it rebounded 67%. Now, by the way, that was the S&P. Imagine there was some funds out there because they were so weighted in risk. You might have these accounts. You might be worried. They actually didn't go down 50% when the S&P did. They actually went down 65, 68%. So they finally, that is a lot of money. So again, the kind of panicky moving is selling low and watch the high. Well, that's the opposite of smart investors. And so I really want, if you're out there, and we'll help our clients. And if they decide to get out, Alex, I will tell you, if they want to get out and they're that nervous, we're not going to try to talk them into keeping it because they're thinking, well, they just want to make money. I want you to be able to sleep at night, but I also got to give you education, history, track record. Like when COVID hit, I went back to 1980s when we had a pandemic in 1980s. If you guys look it up, my favorite tennis player, Arthur Ashe, and the movement came in of medical issues. And of course, I compared that to the COVID when that hit. There's a lot out there that we can correlate with, but it doesn't mean the crystal ball is clear, Alex, but it does mean how do you control yourself. And if you can't control it, let me give you a real good medication right now. It's prescription approved by myself. Get out of the market because if you can't handle it, you don't belong in it. And understanding how it works. Now, if you're saying, well, Scott, I just don't understand it. Well, then let's get some education in you because that could really help you say, I can handle the swings of the market and I can have income coming in for the rest of my life if I do it a certain way. And that's what people want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're talking about the market, and I have to mention, Warren Buffett, he's announced his intention to retire at the end of the year. And what is he, the Oracle of Omaha? Maybe the best at, understanding the market than anyone ever. And what he always says is it's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market. What do you tell somebody? Maybe there's somebody listening out there and they just say, hey, I hear you, Scott. We go through this all the time. I'm just going to sit back, wait for all of this to calm down. I'm not going to do anything different with my portfolio. What do you think about that?
I think they're needing to understand what timing is for them. I say that for you listening out there because I've heard this so often. Now 43 years, going on 44 years in the business. What I've heard is that Warren Buffett's statement. I agree. But if you're an investor out there and all your eggs are in the stock market, that's probably just double dumb. Why? Because there might be a time you might need it as an emergency. And so this is where you really define how much do I have in the market, how much do I don't have in the market, so you can sleep well at night. Remember, if the market dropped in 2000 and finally came back to 2013, that's 13 years of no growth. Imagine if you needed the money and you pull it out. Now you're selling shares at a very, very bad time because you sold all of the shares possibly at a major discount. So, when we're going to talk about some myths, I think, later on. And I'm just wondering, the myth is, let's just do nothing. Well, that could be a good strategy. Yes. If you understand your risk factor, please write this down. If you're listening or driving in the car, what is the beta factor? How much beta? How much risk do you have? Now that comes in numbers, guys and girls. So when you listen to me, how much risk do you really have? In other words, if the market dropped 20, could your portfolio drop 30? There's obviously there's contracts out there that will do that. Mutual funds, ETFs, stocks that can do that. We want to check out the risk factor plus the growth factor. Do we have possible growth? Is the company running well? This is when you get a diversified portfolio. You can say, yes, I can wait, but you'll know why you're waiting versus every night you're just watching the stock market. You wake up in the morning, you watch the stock market, you become a nervous wreck, and then your life starts to fall apart because you get caught in that vicious cycle. This is a vicious cycle. So again, education and a coach, someone like myself or somebody you can trust who's been around for a while, understands the market, let them help you understand. Maybe you need to calm down a little bit, or maybe you need to get out. I don't know. Everybody's different, and their emotions determine their whole life. They're going to be happy or sad, and they're going to be regretting things. So let's talk about that, guys. 609-488-4646. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it off the air. No cost, no obligation. 609-488-4646. If I can help, oh my gosh, that's so great. If I can just add a little bit of spice to your life and a little bit of knowledge, maybe something will help you, not jump off that ledge. 609-488-4646 could be the great medication that you need.
No, I think that's great, Scott. And real quick here before we move on to the next segment, Scott, how do you throw a party in outer space?
What?
Yeah, how do you throw a party in outer space?
I don't know.
Well, you plan it. Oh,
dude, you must be taking some medication.
Oh, I know. So bad it's good. This is Financial Insanity. When we come back, we're going to be talking estate and legacy planning. Don't go anywhere.
What if you ordered a pizza, but when you opened the box, a couple pieces were missing? That would be upsetting, right? Now think about how much you believe you have saved for retirement. Do you still owe taxes on that money? If you do, that could take a big bite out of your nest egg. Financial advisor Scott McLean and his team at McLean Advisory Group understand the importance of tax planning and can help you reduce the impact that Uncle Sam has on your retirement. Give them a call today to start working on your retirement tax plan. 609-488-4646. Create a plan today so that you can get as many slices of your retirement pie as possible. Call Scott McLean at 609-488-4646 today and schedule your retirement tax analysis. That's 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities. Firm may not give tax advice.
And when you pay down debt, you don't pay down the highest interest rate. The biggest mistake is you pay the highest interest rate card when you should do the snowball effect of paying down debt.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
A lot of people think estate or legacy planning is just for people with big mansions and even bigger bank accounts. But think again. Estate planning is about preparing for life's curveballs, whatever is thrown your way, making sure you preserve your wishes and having a plan for you and your loved ones, no matter your bank account size. Thank you so much for joining us for Financial Insanity. I'm your host, Alex Dingman, alongside, as always, Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group here in Waretown. And Scott, let's talk about this, estate legacy planning. And I know that you believe this is important for everybody regardless of their financial situation, right?
You know, Alex, this is really important. That's why I wrote the book, The Three Blind Mice, how the financial planning process leads your money to a mousetrap. And the mousetrap is when advisors meet with people, if they've met with you listening to me, are they looking at your will, power of attorney, living will, healthcare directive? Possibly you have a irrevocable trust. Perhaps you have a special needs trust because you have special needs kids, or maybe you have a spendthrift trust because you have a child that you know if your son or daughter receives their inheritance, for every dollar they get, they spend $2, which would be a spendthrift trust. So this is really important on how can you make your money really go forward. And in speaking with so many clients, I said, you know what, when we meet with clients, if you and your lovely spouse were to die, or if you're single, you're die, what we do at our firm is when we speak to your children about the beneficiaries getting the money, we actually walk them through the process of how to handle the money. Whether they want to stay with our firm or take the money or go to their own advisor, that's okay. But I want to assure our clients that we work with that we're going to have that come to Jesus meeting. We're going to have that meeting on how does this money work? What did your mom and dad want? And then, of course, they can do whatever they want. We don't beg them to work with us. That's not the point. But to give them some guidance, because I know they're not getting the guidance. So when they receive their inheritance, 80%, almost 85% of all the beneficiaries, I say children, are going to blow it within the first 3 to 5 years. Blow it, completely use it. So how do we help them? Well, they probably need some coaching, Alex. So this legacy planning is not only important for those of you thinking about it now, maybe you haven't even dusted off your legal documents. This is where people bring them into our office because we have lawyers in our office. You don't have to use them. If I get stuck, I can talk to them and I can get their guidance. No cost, no obligation. But I think this is important for our financial clients. I need to know what you want. What do you want to do? How does the money pass on? So I need to know what kind of legal work needs to be done. And then I can call your lawyer or put a letter together. This is what I see. This is what I feel. This is what needs to be done. Because if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you're not going to think of all the things. Or you might, but you're most likely not going to think of all the left hooks that are out there that I have faced for the past, now my anniversary is March 8th this year, makes it 43 years, or we're going on our 44 years of the business. And I can tell you the changes, that it hasn't changed in 43 years that people are not thinking about legacy planning. So Alex, I'm so glad you asked that. And if you're out there thinking about legacy planning, I'm going to give you a very important key thought. The thought is to meet with your advisor or meet with us and let's talk about it. Why? Because your money is going to go to whomever your beneficiaries are. And the best place to do that is 609-488-4646. Again, give our studios a call. We can do it over the air. I'll give you some ideas. 609-488-4646. And the plans we set today, Alex, could change tomorrow. Your daughter gets divorced. You don't want her husband to get the money because if she dies, he's going to oversee the money for her children or vice versa. How do we protect that money? Legacy planning is so important, Alex.
Well, it really is. And what you just hit on is important because there are a lot of changes. There's things that happen in life and a lot of things that are unexpected. And so talk a little bit here about the importance of keeping that estate plan up to date. I mean, you definitely don't want things to be outdated. You definitely don't want things to just be non-existent in the plan, because what we don't want, Scott, is for there to be disagreements, for there to be problems. You know, we've seen this before, unfortunately, families torn apart during the process of settling a parent's estate. So just talk about that too, just the importance of making sure that you got eyes on this stuff, that it's all up to date, and that you have the right documents in place to begin with.
Again, this leads back, I believe, to the quarterback. I believe the quarterback is the financial advisor. And when your financial advisor looks at the legal documents, this is the start of the ball game. So if he or she is not intimately involved, not just buying and selling stocks and making the portfolio, but again, where does the money go? Now, when you said the word estate, it makes me scared for those of you listening, because if your estate is not that big, you think you don't have that much to worry about. We're not talking about those of you that have huge mansions, although we do have clients with huge mansions. We also have people that are just getting by and they need guidance. So it's whether you're rich or poor, you need a game plan, or the state that you live in, and this is recording is in New Jersey, has their own plan. Why don't you make it your plan? So again, the curveballs really are out there, as Alex mentioned. And so when you think about estate planning, we want to maximize your money. We want to look at everything in your estate. We want to look at the taxation in your estate. And so when you think about the planning, regardless of how smart you are, of what's going on in your life right now, how you pass the money on to the children, this is a discussion. This is a really intimate discussion when it comes to, I don't want my kids fighting.
No.
I have a lot of money, and I don't want to tell them how much is there right now because I'm nervous. How do I handle it, Scott? I get that. How do I avoid probate? What do we do in probate? How can I avoid probate? How can I avoid my house from going to the nursing care center when I could have put it into a special trust where they don't get any of my assets? And I get this so often. And as I work with my financial clients, Alex, today's plan, as I mentioned before in one of our segments that we spoke about, today's plan might be perfect, but tomorrow may be changing. Tomorrow, everything changes. Maybe your daughter or son got sick and they have children. Maybe your wife or your husband, their lights are getting dim and they're starting to, not think like they used to. This is a discussion we should have when people give our studios a call. By the way, the number is 609-488-4646. When they give our studios a call, Scott, here's what I'm going through. What's going on? Give our studios a call and let's talk about it. No cost, no obligation. I'm not going to stick my hand in your wallet or your pocket. I don't want my arm broken. But this is a wonderful discussion, and I'm glad you're being proactive versus reactive. And I've done this several times, sending the lawyer to the hospital while somebody's in the bed, although they're fully conscious, they're fully aware, their noodles are all there, but they got to sign documents called the power of attorney for healthcare matters, as well as the living will and healthcare directive. This is not a very good, so that's not a good plan. It's like buying an umbrella as you're walking out in the rain. It's a little late. So let's get the umbrella up. Let's get the area of protection, because things today may not be tomorrow, but let's have a game plan, a backup, a 2-3 game plan backup in case something happens. But that's a very important, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also important just getting started. And Scott, there might be people out there that are listening and maybe they just feel overwhelmed. And, maybe they're like me, where sometimes there's a project and you can get it done and it's not going to be too bad, but you just don't know where to start. And so then you kind of get analysis paralysis and you just don't move on it. What about some major points for people, Scott, about what are some things to consider right away to get started on this process?
Wow, that's a loaded gun, and we do have it on our website, some great information, and we'll be able to get it out to those people who want it, totally free. You can go online. But some of the areas to think about is, number one, read your will over. How do you want to pay out? Number two, get with your advisor. And if your advisor's not, you could sit with a lawyer, but they're going to charge you a fee just to sit down and talk about it. If you're our financial client, we're going to ask this question every single year. And here's a crazy thing. People think, why would you do that, Scott? Because this, in chapter 11 in my book, if you'd like, by the way, if you would like a copy of my book, you can go online right now at 609-488-4646.com or call that number, 609-488-4646.com, and go to my book in chapter 11. We can email it to you, but I talk about that. I spend a lot of time, which is the last chapter. Notice I put it chapter 11. This could be this devastation of your portfolio by not really having the advisor ask the questions, what if? What's going to happen? And we need to look at this. So what we do at our firm, Alex, is when we sit down, we ask you questions about who does the money go to? How do you want it to deliver the money? Do we need any kind of planning? And then, of course, I come up with the ideas and I pass it on to the attorney. And the attorney that's his or her job because I'm not an attorney, but I can design something in my mind because I've done this for so long and let the attorneys make the car as I try to design what it's supposed to look like. What does that mean? Today, you're healthy, you're fine. Tomorrow, life's changed. Today, your kids are healthy and fine, but maybe tomorrow one has passed away, but you have grandchildren. Or maybe you've got two children that are fighting and you know there's going to be a battle and you have a beautiful estate, whether it's 100,000 or 100 million, but you want the money delineated the right way you want it, not the way they want it. And this is where the crows and the clowns show up at the funeral. To avoid that, this is where you need to have that really deep discussion. It's almost like a psychological interview. But when we do that, we do this every year, by the way, Alex. And I start the conversation like this. Hey, Alex, you and your beautiful wife, how's everything going? What's going on? By the way, how are the kids? And you're going to say, Scott, the kids are great. They're wonderful. Are the grandkids healthy? And I see your wife's eyes get a little bit misty because maybe one of the grandchildren had an accident. Or maybe the new baby that just came out got Down syndrome. Or another type of disease. This changes the will. This changes the estate on how it's laid out. And this is really important when we do it on a yearly basis. It's just a quick question. How are the kids doing? How's everybody getting along? This tells us, do we need to fix the estate? And if you're not getting that, frankly, you're driving down the road with one tire flat and the other one's getting low and the car is getting a lot of energy, which is your wallet. Let's not let this hard money get devastated because you forgot to ask questions or your financial advisor's not asking questions. Please write this down and give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. No cost, no obligation. We'll have the quick 15-minute call. And if that means you have to come in, let's really have a really come to Jesus meeting and really talk about it. Let's do that. And I can tell you, the time we spend together will be a wonderful time. You'll walk out of our office thinking, wow, I wish I knew that before. I can tell you that's what's going to happen. Wow, I am so glad I came to your office. That I can tell you will happen.
No, thank you for that, Scott. And if you're like me, you like learning from other people's mistakes. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about some of the biggest estate planning blunders that we see and some possible ways to avoid them. This is Financial Insanity.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Well, many people have a deep wish to not only build wealth, but to share it, making a real difference in the lives of their loved ones and possibly some charities they support. But in order to get this done, you really need to avoid some estate planning mistakes. We talk about that today. I'm Alex Dingman, host of Financial Insanity, here with Scott McLean, founder of McLean Advisory Group here in Waretown. And Scott, let's talk about this. As we're talking about estate and legacy planning today, what are some common blunders people often make when it comes to planning or not planning their estate?
Well, not having documents, not having the right legal documents. Everybody knows that. Or maybe they haven't, I call it dusting off their legal documents, finding that Uncle Charlie was the executor of the estate, but Uncle Charlie's dead because your kids were young when you wrote the plan, and now your kids are 30 years old. You have an old will. Maybe you need to update that. So again, that is one of the most common blunders I've noticed. Number two, the second most common blunder is failing to really update your beneficiaries if you get remarried, or if you get married, or if you have a child that is disabled or got disabled in an accident. So when I look at these common blunders, it could cause a massive taxation. Let me give you an example, a massive common blunder. Let's say I have a 401k with my company. My wife has a 403b. She works at the school system. And I put down my wife as the beneficiary. And of course, she puts me down, if she still likes me, as her beneficiary. But she doesn't put who the next beneficiary is, let's say my children, if I die. So here's the challenge. If there's not a contingent beneficiary, a simple question all financial planners should do. If there's not a beneficiary after my wife, she's primary, the contingent could be the kids. If they're not down there, the kids will get the money. But here's what's going to happen, Alex. This is the challenge I see so often. Challenge number one, how do we get the money? Well, we've got to cash in the 403b, 401k, give the money to the spouse. That's easy. No problem. But let's say we both died in a car accident, my wife and I never changed the beneficiary as a contingent of my kids. All that money has to be sold. It is now 100% taxed, and it can pass on to the children. But if there's beneficiaries, it could go into the children, and now we have a beneficiary IRA that could be set up and no taxation versus 100% being taxed. What a blunder that could be. So again, then we have the wrong executor. Another big blunder. Oh my goodness gracious. Imagine Susie Q, which is your sister, and she was the executrix of your estate or the power of attorney of your estate, and she passed away. Problem. Is there a backup? So there's no contingent backup to the power of attorney or the will. Second biggest blunder is not putting someone there. I guess that's the first one, not putting someone there. And then, of course, now your children are older. Maybe they should be involved. But the question is who? And it's not, Alex, it's not who the oldest is. It's who can do the job. I was mom and dad's financial power of attorney because I'm pretty good at the financial world.
Sure.
My sister was the healthcare power of attorney. She's got her 2 master's degrees, and she was a brilliant woman in the healthcare world. And so that's what happened. But I was the backup to her, and she was the backup to me. So we did have a backup. So again, failing to put this down. And that's when we review. When people visit our office, they come in, meet a warm office. They love the environment. They love meeting with us. And they, again, I say, hide your checkbook, hide your wallet. You can't do business with me. Let's just get to know each other, because I don't know if I'm a good fit for you and you may not be a good fit for me, but let's get to know each other. But we are going to talk about your estate, because that's what financial planning is. It's not just about how much can I get from you to invest. It's how much can I give to you to guide you through life's the biggest challenge. And again, the blunders, overlooking this areas, overlooking taxation, Alex. Imagine you could reduce taxes and you could put it in different plans. But if I did not look at your tax return, which I talk in my book, The 3 Blind Mice, how the financial planning process leads your money to a mousetrap. Well, you know what? I left a piece of you out. Again, you're driving down the road with one flat tire and the other one's starting to hit, you're on the rim and the other one's sparking. And well, you got to figure this out. So again, we need to look at this area. And these are the financial blunders I see, not just once. And if you're listening to me, you're not a blunder. You just are uninformed. I don't want you to say, well, Scott's going to make fun of me. Scott's going to think we're dumb. No, I can't tell you in my 43 years of this industry, about 80% of people need to update their legal documents. It's amazing that lawyers don't follow up. If they did your will this year, are they going to follow up next year to see just a quick phone call? Did anything change? And asking you 10 quick questions. We do this every single year with our financial clients. And this is why failing to communicate, not addressing special needs, and underestimating long-term care costs. Why did I bring that in? That could be an irrevocable trust to protect your assets. These are the blunders I can see where your estate could be totally evaporate before your eyes while you're alive. Don't let that happen. Give our studios a call. I'd love to talk to you off the air. 609-488-4646. By the way, that's our website, 609-488-4646.com. And a lot of good information there. But the better information, you could have textbook information, but you could also have textbook and real world. They are totally different, Alex. So, you study in books in school, but when you get out to real world, it's like, this is not what they taught us.
Yeah.
Let me help guide you out there if you're listening.
609-488-4646. Again, that number for Scott and his team at McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Scott, I thought it was interesting. I was reading an article, and they had a survey in there that showed that only 26% of Americans have taken steps to actually formulate an estate plan. But what it also tells us is that those who work with a financial advisor are twice as likely to complete an estate plan within the next 2 years compared to those who do not. Scott, just talk about this. Being an accountability partner, how can you help somebody expedite the process and help ensure an estate plan is actually in place?
When we meet people, Alex, when they come into our office, the nicest thing I want everyone out there to understand, and they can talk to any one of our clients. When you come in and visit with us, we want to talk about these areas. I even put it in our book, The Three Blind Mice. You want a copy of our book? When you come in and visit with me, I'll be happy to give it to you. No cost, no obligation. But when I see this, so many times advisors, I'm glad people are talking about it, but they're forgetting the big picture. Who gets what? How do they get it? How is it set up? Do we have challenges in the family? And when we look at the estate plan, by designing it, it's not a set it and forget it, which most people think. Again, if you don't have a large estate, you're thinking, well, estate, I have mansions, I've got a big house. No, this is you out there that maybe just have a few shekels and you're renting an apartment, but you maybe have a couple $100,000 laying around and you need to know how to make that last the rest of your life and pass it on. You see, we spoke about it just a second ago about communication, Alec, and your survey is so clear. And when you think about when you work with an advisor, if they're not asking pertinent questions about your money and where it goes, and how the estate should be set up, and how does, let's say, your two children get along? Do they have children? Do you want to pass the money to the grandkids if you pass away? If your son or daughter pass away, do you want to pass the grandkids? Do you want their spouses to oversee it, or do you want maybe your daughter to oversee your children, your son's children, and your son oversee your daughter's children, so the spouses don't get any part of your estate? These are really deep questions that most people, and again, I tell you, say most, about 90% of people that I meet with, Alex, your survey says one thing, 26 Americans taking steps.
Yeah.
But what I've found is when I meet with people, they have not even reviewed those estate plans. They haven't even looked at the documents. They haven't even asked a question. Hey, when you come back in, could you bring your will, power of attorney, living will, trust so I can read it real quick and help understand where you want to go? This is what I think what sets us apart in our practice now over 43 years of how do we make sure that your assets are bulletproof or as bulletproof as possible? How do we make sure your assets, if you have a tremendous asset, you're passing them on? 100,000 could be tremendous to some of you. But how do we pass them on? Is there going to be a fight? Is there going to be a challenge? And if you're working with a financial advisor that hasn't asked any of these questions at all, listen to me. You could be working with Colonel Sanders babysitting your pet chicken. This is not good. You want to make sure that really that The advisor is looking at all areas of your estate because, again, our job as a fiduciary is to make sure that you're buttoned up in every way, shape, or form is to the best of our ability, and then refer you to, or maybe use your own lawyer or give you a couple lawyers. We have some in our office, no cost, no obligation to meet with them. Or when we look at taxes, no cost or obligation. Bring your tax return. We can read those. And when we go through that, how can we best make your portfolio, make your estate the place of, well, when you put your head on the pillow, or maybe you're in the airline and the plane, as you're in the air, drops 200, 300 feet and you're gasping with coffee in your face and peanuts all over the place and you're scared. I hope my estate's in order. Be assured, I know you don't want to crash, by the way, but be assured, is your estate in order? I hope if your estate is in order right now, I'm going to give you some guidance right now. Number one, communication, 609-488-4646. Communication is the beautiful way to get this going. Or call if you have an advisor. But if your advisor hasn't asked these questions in 2 or 3 years, maybe it's time to look around, get a second opinion. Because I can tell you, legacy planning that we're talking about in this show, and Alex, you brought some wonderful points up because, again, most people don't look at that. So what can I get from you? Okay, go speak to your lawyer. He'll talk to you. That is wrong. I believe the lawyer and the financial planner should talk to each other, or the financial advisor should call the lawyer. Say, would you mind if I call a lawyer? Please let him know I'm calling. And this starts the game plan of a great relationship, not only with the lawyer, because who do they show up with? Someone dies, the kids show up, they show up to the lawyer. Well, the taxi meter goes up and you're starting to get billed. But what if the financial advisor knows all about you? Well, there's no taxi meter because he or she's going to guide your kids to really enjoy what's left over, not enjoy the passing of mom and dad, but enjoy the benefits of a good counsel, good advice, versus taking the money and run, which about 80% of people do, and they get taxed up the wall. So again, Three Blind Mice, how the financial planning process leads your money to a mousetrap. You're welcome to get my book totally free. Visit with our office, 609-488-4646. I can tell you, I can't guarantee you because I'm not allowed to say that with my license, but I can almost promise you when you leave our office, you'll have more insight and more knowledge of what to do, how to take action. And then when you wipe your brow and wipe the sweat about all the concerns, you can say, wow, I was at the right place. I'm so glad I came. Maybe McLean Advisory Group is the firm I should look at 609-488-4646. And if you're out there, please don't put this off. This means your legacy and then your children's or charity.
I love it, Scott. Powerful stuff there. And if you're concerned about inflation or have any other questions, concerns, thoughts, 609-488-4646 is the number. 609-488-4646. McLean Advisory Group. This is Financial Insanity.
What if you ordered a pizza, but when you opened the box, a couple pieces were missing? That would be upsetting, right? Now think about how much you believe you have saved for retirement. Do you still owe taxes on that money? If you do, that could take a big bite out of your nest egg. Financial advisor Scott McLean and his team at McLean Advisory Group understand the importance of tax planning and can help you reduce the impact that Uncle Sam has on your retirement. Give them a call today to start working on your retirement tax plan. 609-488-4646. Create a plan today so that you can get as many slices of your retirement pie as possible. Call Scott McLean at 609-488-4646 today and schedule your retirement tax analysis. That's 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities. Firm may not give tax advice.
Frankly, you could have your grandkids tweet out to your friends or go on the Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is and say, I got great information from Scott.
And you left out TikTok there as you're rambling off the different social media being used by the kids today. You got to remember that TikTok.
Oh, that's right. Tickety-tock.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
Retirement sure is one of life's biggest milestones. There are a lot of myths out there, though, and these can lead to costly mistakes. We're going to be talking about those today on Financial Insanity. I'm your host, Alex Dingman, alongside Scott McLean, founder of McLean Advisory Group, and my friend. And we're going to be busting down some of these myths about retirement and talk some truths that we always do. And Scott, what's that first one? This is one I remember hearing and kind of makes you chuckle a little bit. But
it is real.
Uh-huh.
And as a young advisor, when I started out when I was 23 years old, I would have believed the myth number one that I found: I'll spend a lot less when I retire. That's the myth. But here's the truth. Many retirees spend more than the first 10 years. That's right. If you're in or right in nearing retirement, the first 10 years of retirement than they did while working. You see, well, because what's happening, you're figuring it out, because finally they have the time to do all the things they wanted to do, but they couldn't do. Travel, home projects, new flooring, new roofing, new bathrooms, new hobbies. Maybe you're spoiling the little grand rats that are running around. And it's like a release from jail, get out of jail free card, and you just head right to Disney World with no plans of how much the tickets cost. Just go. And so in the early years, if this is you, understand the statement, I will spend a lot less when I retire, is probably not true at all. So again, where is the truth? The first few years, go-go years, you're going to spend money. Let's have that conversation. And it's okay. You saved it. We need a game plan. You need a plan to say, okay, so when you go from the go-go years to the slow-go years, you're ready for it. Then I call it the no-go years. You did it. You don't want to do it again. You don't want to travel. And you're wondering, how come grandma and grandpa don't want to travel? They don't want to travel. They're done. They want to stay home. They like, what's it? They Click in Your Hills, The Wizard of Oz, and there's no place like home. That's called the no-go year. So again, first plan, be honest with your lifestyle. Write it down. And you might want to say, Scotty, how do you do this? I've got a unique budget plan. And that's a cuss word for some of you. You're probably cringing, and maybe your butt cheeks are so tight you don't want to even listen. A budget plan. So you're going to go have fun the first 5-10 years. And again, at McLean Advisory Group, this is what we focus on. We've seen so much at 609-488-4646. Because if you don't have a map to really lay out the cost of your dreams, your dollars, your dynasty might be empty. How do we handle this without having a nightmare? 609-488-4646. We don't need to have fairy tales. We need the facts.
Yep. Absolutely. That's what we are delivering today as we're going through a handful of common myths that the McLean Advisory Group has identified over the years. What's the next one?
Medicare. Medicare is the second biggest question I get all the time. And when I think about Medicare, you think about it's a great foundation, but it doesn't cover dental, vision, hearing aids, long-term care. And with long-term care costing $80,000 to $100,000 a year, did you do an irrevocable trust? Did you position your assets to protect it from, of course, being squandered or having to go to a nursing home? There are tools in place. The government lets us use it. And here's the kicker. Most people don't realize that 70% of retirees will need some form of long-term care. It's real. Now, I know Daddy's plan was, son, if I get sick or disabled, do me a favor, drive down the road 100 miles an hour, kick me out. Dad, I'm not going to jail. Come on. But he was serious about how much you can evaporate one's income. Those are retirement landmines. The healthcare, Trump is signing a bill to lower prices. Good for you, Mr. Trump. And I think that's exciting. Other things are happening. But again, we can't afford by going these myths. Let's put a plan and have some kind of thought in mind. What does it feel like? What does it look like? And Scott, with your experience over the past 40 years working with seniors, how will it help for me? Let's make that personal for you.
Yeah, no, that is great advice. All right, Scott, the next common myth, Social Security alone will be enough.
567 ways to take Social Security. In other words, if you got the book from Dr. Koklikoff, and you read the book, it's really thick. It's about 4 inches thick. I enjoy some of you reading that, but many won't even read 2 pages. It'll too crazy. But the myth is, yes, Social Security could be enough. Now, by the way, if you're in the no-go years, it might be enough because you're not doing anything. It might just be enough, but depending on what kind of your cost of living is. And so we get that along as the next biggest fake tool or myth is. But Social Security, how do you pick it? When do you pick it? How should you plan it? I've got people, Alex, that came into our office planning Social Security for next year. We did a wonderful job. Luckily, we have this really unique software that can really dive in to pick the top best choice for them. We find out next year they show up. Here it is, March. They're going to retire in June. I said, let's get together 3 months before. Scott, I don't want to retire. I want to stay working. Okay, great. Good for you. Let's have your money grow. Let's do something different. So, or maybe I get people coming in early. Scott, I got so sick of my job. I want to retire now. But I thought you were going to retire in a year, 2 years from now. That's what we planned for. Yeah, but things went wrong. Okay, let's go back to the table. Let's talk. This is where you don't want to go it alone. If you're financially capable, do it alone. Maybe go online, look it up, but be careful because you're going to get a lot of really misunderstanding information. So again, Social Security, can you live on it? Probably not. Some people are, but maybe they're living with their children. So I do have clients that are, but I can tell you, when you pick your Social Security, it's important and save money, put money away.
Yep. 609-488-4646, the number for Scott and his team at McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Been in the Waretown area for over 4 decades, getting it done. And so McLean Advisory Group has come up with a lot of these myths that we're discussing today. And the final one, legacy planning can wait.
Boy, isn't that the daggum lie of the century? Just this morning, Alex, you probably saw a young man who came in here. He's 64 years old, has a beautiful wife. She is 57 years old. They have a young child. Beautiful young child. He is 15 years old. And they have no legal documents. Now, what I didn't say to you is this child is special needs.
Yeah.
What I didn't say to you is the wife, beautiful woman, she doesn't understand money that well. She doesn't know where to put the money. What would happen if she got it all? Where would they put it? So we walked through the legal discussions, and then we had our lawyers come in to discuss it with them as well after I tried to put a game plan together because they had no will, no power of attorney, which will help make decisions. He controls all the money, meaning it controls, meaning he's not a control freak. He brought all the money in. It's in his 401k. It's in his IRA, which means if his lights go dim because they're married, she doesn't have access to the money. She's got to get court appointed if he doesn't have a power of attorney. So if you're out there, these documents are nothing to put on the shelf and get dusty. These documents are to put on the shelf, to take off the shelf, review them, and then give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. Now, at a complete disclosure, I am not an attorney, but as also complete disclosure, I work with your attorney, other attorneys. We know how to design these game plans. We know how to put things in place. And in this case, they needed a special needs trust. They needed a power of attorney. Backup power of attorney. They needed an executor. They need a trust person to handle the money because the wife is not going to be able to handle the money. She's never handled this kind of money, but he wants to make sure there's a guaranteed payment for the rest of her life. Okay, so now we need a unique type of trust, and we have 3 different trusts in their planning. What's important? Because what you just said to start this discussion about legacy planning is the biggest mistake, is the last biggest mistake, because of course your lights are either going dim or they're going out. Please, if you're out there, don't put these documents off. They're out there to protect you, almost like the IRS code. The IRS code is, how can I beat the IRS? Legally, up front, we'll read the code. Well, if you're a lawyer, how do you protect an estate? Read the codes, read the law agreements. What kind of tools are out there to protect your assets from the crows and the clowns that will show up at the funeral. And I can tell you, this is a great way to protect it by taking care of your legacy. We do this with our clients all the time. We meet with them. Even if it's the first time that person ever comes to meet with me or George or our financial advisors, the first thing we talk about is, let's talk about what? Your dreams, your dollars, and your legacy. So we know that everything fits. 609-488-4646. Does everything fit for you guys? Give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. I'd love to talk to you off the air.
Great show today, Scott. Really appreciate going over all of these myths, really valuable information, and you're always a good hang, Scott. So it's good to see you, buddy.
I love this. I love it. And thanks for our listeners listening. And WBNJ, thank you for allowing me to share this education information for the listeners, because this is so powerful and it's a great way to communicate to you listeners out there. So give Bill a call at the studio and please thank him if this has been a good show for you.
No, I love it. And until next time, this is Financial Insanity.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.